Hey everyone, welcome back. Hopefully everyone's having a good Monday evening and had a great Monday. Had a chance to do my online workout today, so feeling pretty good. Got some outside time, so can't really complain. I wanted to talk a little bit today about, as many of you know, the hospitality industry is near and dear to my heart. It's what I do, it's what I love. And I've had some conversations over the last couple of weeks with owners, general managers of restaurants, hotels, key players, just about the reopening and how the reopening is coming faster than we think, and how we have to really, I hate to use the word, but we have to pivot and get our heads into the right headspace. And the reason I say that is after speaking with a number of people, especially on the hotel side, but even on the independent restaurant side, it's not just going to be a reopening of the industry, a reopening of your business, but it's actually going to be like almost a brand new opening. And having gone through a brand new opening, I can tell you the amount of work that goes into that is intense. And the reason I say it's going to be like a brand new opening is talking to some of these players. In some situations they got rid of everybody. So as you can imagine, if you got rid of everybody, it's not a matter of, okay, well, we're opening in 3 weeks and let's hire people in and get them up and running. As we've talked about before, right? Some people haven't worked in over a year. So you have to go through the interview process, and I can tell you, having helped some people get jobs, the plethora of resumes that come through, so that's going to bog you down. Then you have to get them acclimated to your culture. And if it's a hotel, maybe you bring someone in from another property, so they may have a brand culture, but do they have the culture of your establishment? And that takes time to assimilate. Same thing with a restaurant. You're coming into a whole new team. So these are big things to look at, because once that happens, then just on the process and procedures and getting that training going. So just on a management level alone of going through an opening and a reopening, just being cautiously optimistic, I would guesstimate you're looking at a 12-week back time, just to go through all the processes, get the people in and get the interviews done, then get them trained, get them acclimated, and then have them start to bring back the people and get acclimated to them. And then you have to look about our staff in restaurants and hotels. And I've touched on this before, but again, having not worked for some period of time, something's going to be harder than others for people. What does a 10-hour shift look like in your pub for someone who hasn't worked 10 hours? What does last call look like for someone who hasn't had to throw someone out at 2 a.m. for over a year? What does that look like having to throw someone out coming off of COVID? Is there trepidation of getting too close to that person? So all these things have to just start percolating in the head of, okay, what does this actually look like? And the same thing when I look at hotels, you're looking at, your pot washer or your housekeeper or your houseman who haven't flipped mattresses, lifted pots. It's not just going to be, all right, come on back in tomorrow. We're getting to it. That training, the training on PPE, how to address guests, how to allay their fears, that's all going to take time. And the big one for me that I think we really have to look at, and we're going to have to pay some special attention to it in all facets of the industry, is our people as a whole. And, I'm of two minds on this, and I just want to be clear on that, is that we're bringing people back to work, and as we start to bring them back to work, we all have to remember that it's basically a level playing field, right? Everyone's been shut down. I believe, and everything I've read, a lot of people have actually accumulated more wealth, if you can believe it, over this time, because they're not paying for childcare, they're not driving, they're not paying for parking. So I feel like restaurants and hotels are going to be overrun this summer as long as the vaccination works like it looks like it is going to be. So it's going to be very busy. And as we've talked about in the past, with those guest expectations up here, because everyone's been closed, they're thinking that all this work is going into things. I don't think it's a 3 strike you're out. I think it's maybe 1.5 strikes you're out. So if you don't have that training in place and those new standards in place and being friendly, welcoming, being 3 steps ahead of the guest, It could very easily be like I'm going from restaurant X to restaurant Y because I can give it a shot and see who's doing it right. I can go from brand A of this hotel. I'm going to go over to brand B because brand A dropped the ball, but wow, brand B killed it. So maybe I'm going to switch my business to brand B. And maybe that's too simplistic of thought, but that's kind of where I'm at. Like if I'm going to go to a hotel or restaurant and it doesn't immediately blow me away, I'm going to go somewhere else. Like we did in the past anyways with restaurants, but I think hotels, there's another aspect to it possibly to look at, because people's disposable income has gone up and they're going to want to spend it where they feel they're going to get their value and have truly an experience. But this is where it comes into the human aspect of it, and this is where I struggle with it, because on one hand, you want to have these great trainings and you want to set the expectation during the training of this is what we ask from management all the way through the organization, through the restaurant. This is the standard and this is what we're going to hold everyone to. And while I believe in that wholeheartedly, it's where I think we're going to struggle is we're going to have people coming back, and if they don't hit the ground running, do we waver and say, well, they haven't worked for a year, so let's give it a little more time? And the reason I'm of two minds on this is that if as a restaurant you haven't adjusted your price point, if as a hotel you're charging an aggressive rate, that's all the client is going to look at. That's all the restaurant guest is going to look at. If you're charging me this, don't discount me on the service. I don't, I think guests will be like, I am sympathetic, I'm empathetic that people may not have worked for a while, but you still charge me X amount, and for X amount, this is what I expect, and you didn't deliver. And so I'm going to go down the street to restaurant B or hotel B and see what they can do and see if they're doing it better. And my gut tells me again, like if they get better, we've lost them for the short term. And maybe they can be won back, but this is why I really want to stress to people that if you're in a management position, now's the time to start looking at your training and your onboarding. Maybe not to onboard people tomorrow, but what does that look like? What's the step plan? I talked to 3 different hotels downtown, 2 of which are already putting their plans in place for bringing people on board slowly to work on training, which was great to hear. And I know a couple of restaurants are actually doing some online training with their staff and teams currently. So also great to see, like that proactiveness is what's going to be needed to come out of this. Because again, we're not all coming out of this at I'm at this level, you're at that level, you're at this level. It's basically everyone's coming out of the chute at the same time. The lights are going on basically at the same time, and who's going to hit the ground running and who's going to be prepared for it. I can tell you when we opened the Shangri-La, we rented out the chef's house and we went through how to walk, how to talk, how to carry trays the way that we wanted them to be carried. It was intensive. Same with the cooking. We took over the chef's house and practicing recipes left, right, and center, just to be able to hit the ground running when that September 7th, 2012, I guess it was, hit. So having been through that, my head is already mentally prepared for it. But I just want to make sure we're all thinking along those lines, because it's if any of us are waking up in the morning going, well, as soon as the government says we can open, we're just going to flick the switch and off we go, that it could be a roll of the dice on how that is going to actually play out. So, training, engagement, like treating your people obviously with empathy and respect, but getting them in as soon as you can financially to your reopen date when the government gives it, I think is going to be the best bet to ensure success for all of us going forward, because already we've lost a lot of restaurants and we've lost a lot of hotels, and I don't think we can afford to lose anymore. So, let's use our collective and use all that skill that we've acquired over the years, put it to good use, get our teams up, running, ready to go, set the expectations, set the bar. We don't waver from it, but we do all that with, again, that empathy, but knowing that we really have 1.5 shots, in my estimation, to do it right. Tomorrow night we're going to look at a fantastic wine from Prince Edward County. I'm very excited for that. And so you know what? Just some food for thought. Training, reopen. It's not really a reopen. It's actually a new open. Keep that in mind. Again, just my thoughts, what I think, what I'm preparing for, and I hope we're all preparing for it the same kind of way. Have a great night, guys. Stay safe. Talk soon.